Hold on. Let me do the recording. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. We are the Investigative Committee, and we're here to go over the resolution for the removal of Albert D'Angelo as Vice Chair. Before we begin, I want to go around the room and have the committee introduce themselves. My name is Eliezer Rodriguez, call me Ellie, and I am your chair for this committee.
Jeanette Wilson.
Rich Reynoso, co-chair.
I'm Hazel Mura.
Joe Thompson.
And that is the Investigative Committee. I want to start by reading the conduct statement. Community Board 11 meetings must be held in a professional and hostile-free environment. The following rules of conduct are applicable to members of the public, Community Board 11, and Community Board 11 staff. Any action or behavior that disrupts or interferes with Community Board 11's business will not be tolerated during any Community Board 11 meeting and may result in the individuals being asked to leave. If the action or behavior continues, this may be considered disturbing the peace, and the appropriate authorities may be summoned. If the meeting is held remotely, the person may be muted or expelled for the remainder. Repeated violations by the same person or group of people may result in further action by the community board. All public speakers must address the full board or the committee with their concerns. Electioneering for a position other than an officer of Community Board 11 is prohibited. Engaging in acts of violence, including threats, are grounds for immediate suspension of the right to attend meetings pending review by the Ethics and Disciplinary Committee. Respect the equality, diversity, and privacy of all persons by respecting and valuing differences of culture and opinion. Refrain from unpleasant or disparaging remarks and other actions. Abstain from all forms of harassment by actively discouraging it. Disseminating false information is prohibited. Good evening, Al. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Al, we're going to start going over the resolution. I am going to read the first bullet point in the resolution. Then I'm going to ask the committee to ask questions. And appreciate your candid responses. Vice Chair D'Angelo testified on behalf of himself and Bronx Community Board 11, hereafter referred to as the board, with regards to an EEO complaint brought by District Manager Jeremy Warneke without consulting with or praising the full board. This is an ongoing case that has not been brought to the board's attention in any fashion. Given that several people, including current and former board members and others, have been deposed in this case, it is unconscionable that the board has not been kept abreast of the proceedings. As the city of New York would be liable for any damages awarded, it would have been and would continue to be prudent for Mr. D'Angelo to keep the board informed. Thus, the vice chair had withheld important information with regards to ongoing litigation against the board or its current and or former members. How do you respond?
I responded in writing. I gave the writing to the board. If you just read my response, I answered each question in turn. So if you would please do that, I would appreciate it.
Well, I will then ask the board if they have questions for Al.
Maybe after you read the resolutions, we may have questions.
You guys have copies of it in front of you?
Yes.
It's quite lengthy.
The first question I have is, who's my accusers? I got a letter that I was being accused, but there were no names put to the letter.
I'm going to read what you wrote as your response. I was asked to testify to the validity of Mr. Warneke's claim against Mr. Vitiliano then chair of Community Board 11. The borough dismissed the allegations as unfounded. Mr. Warnicki went further and brought a legal case against the board. When we received notification of the lawsuit, we went into executive session and I informed the board of the charges. I was told not to discuss the case any further. I testified in court and was told to say nothing more about the case. When the case was adjudicated, the board was informed. My testimony is public record. Mr. Warnicki said he would take his claim further, at which time I felt anything I said publicly would prejudice the litigation. Mr. Warnicki brought it up at the present board. We went into executive session so the present board could be brought up to speed. The executive session was leaked to Mr. Warnicki, but wasn't reported accurately or Mr. Warnicki misunderstood. We have gone into executive session to explain Jeremy's lawsuit against the board. I don't know who leaked the information or why, but some of the statements were inaccurate. Someone asked me if the staff was called to testify. I know they were called and Chris Kirka did testify. I believe Harry Lasky asked not to be called. I told the members to read the transcript. I did testify on behalf of the board as I was an officer. I explained the evaluation procedure and why it was done. The first evaluations were average and below average. The second evaluation, after adding 2 new members, was slightly better. I did mention tardiness as being a problem. I was not pressed into admitting he was honest in accounting for his hours as was reported. This makes it sound like I omitted something to harm Mr. Warnicki. I also said he was efficient when it came to the computer and when called with a problem. He addressed it in a timely manner. I also mentioned he did not always follow up to see if a problem was taken care of. I also stated Mr. Vitiliano had asked him to attend community association meetings so he can get a feel for community concerns, which he did only when he was invited, never on his own, to my knowledge. Why this was taken up by the present board, many of whom were not here when the litigation took place, is suspect. The fact that Mr. Warnicki expressed desire to take the case further, I felt it best not to talk about the case since it would probably be litigated again, and I again would be called as a witness. That was your response to the first bullet point in the resolution. Any questions for Mr. D'Angelo?
I have nothing for this question.
Anything on this question?
I have a question. So Al, you've provided us with a lot of information. As I'm reading the communication breakdown, and again, this is my perspective and my interpretation, but it seems as if what is being said is that you simply didn't share with the entire board that there was an ongoing litigation that could impact the board if, this case went the distance and was settled in Jeremy's favor.
The entire board was aware that there was a lawsuit against it. That I made the entire board aware of. I was told by my lawyer and by the, to go into executive session and to explain to the chairs and the committee what was happening. That's exactly what I did. And then I was told not to speak about the case again. And I did.
Can you tell us when that happened? Do you know approximately when that happened?
I can't remember what I had for breakfast. No, it was, I'm sure it's in the minutes somewhere.
Months ago? Years?
I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Thompson?
Who brought these charges?
I don't know. It's all, I have that question too. I don't know who drafted the resolutions. I'm blinded. I don't know.
I don't know either. But we got I'm looking at the email we got. It was just a forward.
I would also like to add, the person who leaked the information to Jeremy when we were in executive session didn't tell him the truth, because there was nothing I said that was demeaning Jeremy. I stated exactly what the evaluation showed. I was not coerced into saying he did a good job. I said certain things he did very well. So I did not like the fact that whoever reported it did not report it 100% correctly.
Any other questions?
But this,
Al, you mind sharing what information was leaked?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You mind sharing what information was leaked?
What information? What do you need?
You said someone in the executive session leaked information to Jeremy.
Yeah.
I'm asking, what information was that?
We went into executive session because one board member wanted to know what happened with the case. So I didn't want to bring it out to everyone. I brought it into executive session because, again, Mr. Wernicke said he may bring this to another court. So again, I'm not going to say anything about the case if I'm going to be called again as a witness. So I don't know what member of the board, told Mr. Jeremy that, the things that went on in executive session. I thought the things went on in executive session was supposed to be private.
Al, would you say that this case started more than 2 years ago or less than 2 years ago?
Oh, this 1, 2 years ago.
What was your
That's the other thing. Very odd that all of a sudden, most people that were not even on the board when this took place, all of a sudden I'm being accused of something that they would know nothing about. But again, that's the nature of the beast, I'm afraid.
Al, do you understand that part of the issue is that that's exactly what's being said, and that's what I was trying to ask before, that this did happen several years ago, but it's still something that is ongoing. So as a board changes, it's important to be transparent and communicate so that each board member is a part of the entire process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the problem being that if this is going to be adjudicated again, I'm not going to discuss it because, again, if it's going to be adjudicated, I'm going to be called as a witness again.
I
So
totally understand that, and details did not have to be shared because that is the case.
Oh, no, I told everyone exactly what was going on. I told, again, when I went into executive session, both times, I explained exactly what went on. And I also said, all you have to do is read the transcript of the case and you get all the information you need.
I think that is wonderful, and that was great for the then existing board. But I am going to say, I think one of the reasons that we are here now is because the board changes and some people leave and some people come on. And part of the issue is that when new people come on, they want to feel equally a part of the board. So I think the issue here is that you did everything when it was happening. But I think that this whole first part is addressing the fact that it just wasn't mentioned in the past 2 years.
So what you're saying is every time a new board member comes on, I should explain the whole situation again?
I don't think the whole situation needs to be explained, but if it is something ongoing that could possibly have,
It was not ongoing, it was settled. It will be ongoing, since Jeremy did say that he was going to appeal it again, then I became mute after that. But
Okay.
it was settled 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, I believe.
Hazel?
But
That case was settled. Jeremy is going to want to reopen it, which is fine. That's his prerogative.
Hazel?
well, my question is, if the board had to be informed, whose responsibility would it have been to inform the board about this lawsuit?
Well, at the first time was Mr. Vitaliano. He was chair. And then when he left, I became chair. And, and again, the lawsuit was against the board, not against anybody personally. There were a few members of the board that were called as a problem, but the suit was against the board.
Al, can you tell the board when was the last time any forward action took place on this lawsuit?
I'm sorry, I don't hear that. You're not coming across too well. Please say again.
I said, can you tell this committee when was the last time any forward action took place on this lawsuit? When was the last time you were asked any questions? When was the last time you heard the questions being asked about this lawsuit? I just want
heard
to find, I want to
that
find
was,
out.
it had to be over 2 years ago.
I want to find out if there's been any further action. You said that at one point this action was dismissed and Jeremy was going to appeal or move forward. I want to
Yeah,
know if any forward action took place. Do
I
you know?
don't, none. In other words, Jeremy's case was shown that it wasn't credible.
So you at this point don't know what the current status of the lawsuit is?
No, the current status, no. Again, it was solved, you know, the board basically won the case, the city won the case. But Jeremy mentioned that he was going to appeal it.
Now, I recall, Al, at a board meeting where a motion was made to pay for Jeremy's lawsuit. Is that true? I mean, did that happen or am I just making that up?
I'm sorry, did what happen?
There was a motion made at the board to help pay for Jeremy's lawsuit. Do you recall that?
They'll pay for his lawsuit. I remember it coming up as, that came up, yeah, that did come up as a proposal.
And the board voted in favor of that motion.
That I don't recall, honestly.
Jeremy, you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, have you been listening to our discussion?
I think I've listened to most of it recently. I mean, when you first read the first resolution, I had to run and find my laptop charger. So I missed some of it, but I've heard enough that, yeah, at some point when you feel like I should comment, I would be happy to.
Well, I'm asking you to comment now.
So my problem with a lot of this stuff, especially that October leadership committee meeting, is I like the truth being told. So in terms of leaks, remember, executive session does not ensure confidentiality. First of all, that was an executive session with the leadership committee. That wasn't the whole board. The whole board has not been informed, apprised of what went on. That was only the leadership committee in October. Am I wrong about that? I mean, Jeanette, you weren't at that meeting, were you? I think
No.
that was just the leadership. I think Veronica was there. I don't know if maybe Hazel. So that's the first thing. Second thing, when I filed my first EEO complaint, Mr. D'Angelo was chair, not Mr. Vitaliano. And I filed it. I mean, I understand why he could maybe get confused in that way, because the primary person I was filing a complaint against was Mr. Vitaliano. Although originally I filed against two board members. What else would you like me to clarify for you?
Jeremy, were you offered a settlement?
Yes, I was. I turned it down.
Okay.
And that's the one thing you want to know where currently this all stands. Well,
Yep.
First of all, I mean, if Mr. D'Angelo doesn't know, I highly recommend that maybe you get in touch with the city law department. I'm appealing this at Bronx County Court. We did have a hearing earlier this year with the state and the city being represented, and my attorneys and me. But yeah,
Now-
maybe somebody wants to get in touch with the city law department
I don't think we can talk about it.
from their end.
It's live.
I can tell you my end, but I think really you guys should be, doing your own thing.
So Jeremy, is there anything that Al would have learned in the past year and a half or so that he needed to report to the board?
Yeah, I mean, I think more than the past year, right? Because I think the board was apprised of the first hearing. There have been 3 hearings. There were 3 hearings, and who was testifying and all that stuff. Maybe Maybe Al was told not to talk about it. But, you know, again, I think that's incumbent upon the board to find out what's going on. If that makes sense.
Jeremy, did, at one point, was there a motion made to help you with your legal
Oh,
fees?
yeah, so no, I think you're confusing that with a cease and desist. A cease and desist, letter. The board reimbursed me for that, unrelated to what we're talking about now.
Okay,
Okay.
anything else? Anything? Al, is there anything else you want to add?
No, that about covers it. Again, I just don't want anybody to think that this was against Jeremy. It was an evaluation. I had to defend the evaluation the way I saw it, and I did.
But at one point, the board was informed of this lawsuit, correct?
The board was notified when the entire board was notified when we first, when the adjudication first came down. When the first lawsuit came down and the board was being sued, I did mention it to the entire board that that there was a lawsuit against the association, against the community board. And that was it. I was told by my lawyer, by the city lawyer, to say nothing more. And I did tell everyone, all you have to do is look at the transcript. You'll get all the information you need at the transcript. I'm not going to add anything to that transcript because that would be, I said everything I had to say at the hearing.
Okay. Are we ready to move on unless we have any further questions?
Good.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the second
Jeremy
point.
raised his hand again.
Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it behooves the board to find out who was called to testify in its name. I mean, who made those calls, right? Chris testified on behalf of the board. And
Who testified?
and it's clear, and I hope it's clear that this case has not been settled. This case is ongoing. There's been no settlement.
Can we even talk about this case if it's ongoing? At
Yeah,
all?
at this point, yes. I mean, so
You just
I know, hold on. I know I've apprised the board of what's going on. I mean, if I can apprise the board, why can't anybody else?
But you just said that we're back in court and you appeal.
I'm appealing it, yes. But the testimony, the record is sealed. Unless there's some earth-shattering revelation here, the court transcripts, they're sealed. So there's not like, and it's not like we can bring anything new into the case unless it's earth-shattering. So yes, we can talk about it. I mean, I've consulted my attorney more than once. Bernadette asked me to do this just to reconfirm, even though I've already done that.
So
There's nothing stopping us from talking about this at this point.
So you've informed the board of your lawsuit.
I did, but the question is why hasn't? Is it really my job to do that though?
But it was
I
done.
don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Okay. Any further questions?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the second point in the resolution. Vice Chair D'Angelo was very actively involved in the opposition to and sent correspondence to elected officials and city agencies regarding placement of homeless shelters in the district on behalf of the board, advising only the board leadership of his actions. These actions were taken without any input whatsoever from the full board and included proposing alternate sites in the district.
Was the housing committee notified on this?
I don't know.
I don't remember what's happening.
I'm going to read Al's response. I supported the community's opposition to more shelters in the Bronx, a borough with more homeless shelters than any other borough, and we rank fourth in population. I also stated publicly to the argument that our community did not have as many shelters as other areas of the Bronx. I would not be opposed to moving a shelter from an inundated area in Community Board 11, but not add any shelters until there is equity with the other boroughs. And then you mentioned you wrote an op-ed piece with the Bronx Times about this topic. And then you wrote, I do not recall sending any correspondence, let alone correspondence without board approval. I would appreciate it if someone would present the letter I supposedly sent without board approval.
Yeah, I'll ask a quick question. Al, did you ever send a letter as Bronx Community Board 11?
No, not without the permission. I'd never signed anything without the permission of the board, without first bringing it to the board.
I have no questions on this then.
Okay, I'll wait for you. That's easy. We're going to take a quick little break, a few minutes. Thank you.
Ellie, do you want to pause the recording?
If it's not going to cause you any trouble at your end,
No, it shouldn't.
okay.
Also, before I pause the recording, Veronica, you texted me what time the meeting started, but I don't think that was on the record.
Yes, that's
Um,
April 8th, 2024, and the time the meeting officially started was 7:11 PM.
okay, so I'm gonna pause the recording. Let me see if I can pause the live stream.